The stars looked different from the observation deck of the United Earth Coalition headquarters. John Morris stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching distant ships come and go. As Earth's first ambassador to the Interstellar Alliance, he carried the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. "Ambassador Morris, they're ready for you," said a young aide. John nodded and straightened his simple blue uniform. Unlike the ornate robes of other species, humans preferred practical clothing. This was just one of many differences that made humanity stand out in the galaxy. The meeting hall fell silent as John entered. 7 alien representatives sat around a curved table. The Zephyrians, with their tall, slender bodies and silvery skin, watched him with unblinking eyes. The Valkyrians, stocky and ridged, nodded in greeting. Other species, some reptilian, some seemingly made of living crystal, observed with various expressions John still struggled to read. "The human delegation may present its proposal," announced the Zephyrian chairperson. John stepped forward. "Earth thanks the Alliance for this opportunity. We propose a joint medical research initiative. Our doctors have developed treatments for neural degradation that may benefit multiple species." The Valkyrian representative leaned forward. "And what does Earth expect in return?" "Knowledge," John replied simply. "The chance to learn and grow alongside our galactic neighbors." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Most species entered the Alliance with demands for technology or territory. Humanity's approach was unusual. Back on Earth, Director Olivia Wright reviewed the transmission of the meeting. Her office at the UEC Control Center overlooked the rebuilt city of Geneva, its green spaces and solar towers, a testament to how far humanity had come since the resource wars of the 2080s. "They don't trust us," said her assistant, Peter. Olivia smiled. "Would you? We're newcomers. Trust takes time." On the screens around her, reports flowed in from human ships and colonies. The UES Harmony, Earth's flagship research vessel, was currently orbiting a planet in the Tau Ceti system, helping the local species fight a crop disease. Captain Roy Duncan sent daily updates about their progress. "Director, we've received a message from New Eden Colony," Peter said, handing her a tablet. The message from scientist Eric Powell made her heart beat faster. His team had discovered a new energy source, one that could revolutionize space travel. The possibilities were endless. "Should we inform the Alliance?" Peter asked. Olivia hesitated. The Alliance agreement required sharing major technological breakthroughs. "Yes, schedule a presentation for next month's council meeting." Across the galaxy on the Alliance Central Station, Intelligence Officer Kate Bennett walked through corridors few humans were allowed to enter. As a liaison officer, she had higher clearance than most of her kind. The Zephyrians had assigned her to help catalog historical archives, a seemingly boring task that Kate suspected was meant to keep her busy and away from sensitive areas. Today, something caught her eye. A file labeled Species Assessment. Human was left open on a terminal. The official who had been viewing it had stepped away briefly. Kate glanced around quickly, then read as much as she could. Peaceful tendencies appeared genuine, though potentially temporary. Historical analysis suggests capacity for extreme militarization under perceived threats. Recommendation: controlled integration protocol with information restriction parameters. The sound of approaching footsteps forced her to step away from the terminal. Kate maintained a neutral expression as the Zephyrian official returned. "Officer Bennett, thank you for your patience," the alien said smoothly. "My pleasure," Kate replied, her mind racing with questions about what she'd just read. That night, as most humans on the station slept, Kate sent a carefully worded message to Director Wright. "The welcome may be warm, but the house has rules we haven't been told about." Humanity continued its peaceful approach to galactic politics, unaware that behind the Alliance's polite diplomacy, plans were already in motion to ensure humans remained exactly where the older species wanted them: helpful, innovative, but never truly equal. 20 years passed since humanity joined the Interstellar Alliance. Earth colonies now dotted several star systems. Humans worked alongside alien species, sharing knowledge and building what they believed was a future of cooperation. Sam Collins did not share this optimism. As military advisor to the United Earth Coalition, he spent his days studying patterns that others missed. Today, he stood before director Olivia Wright, who had aged gracefully but looked tired after 2 decades of diplomatic battles. "Look at the numbers," Sam said, pointing to the display. "Human colonies pay the same security fees as everyone else, but receive 30% less protection. Last month, pirates hit New Eden. Alliance ships didn't arrive for 6 hours, though there was a patrol just 1 system away." Olivia frowned. "Could be coincidence. Once is coincidence. 20 times is policy," Sam replied. Olivia rubbed her temples. Sam wasn't the only one raising concerns. On Mars Colony, Governor Lisa Martinez walked through the Environmental Control Center. The red planet had been transformed by human ingenuity and hard work. Domes spread across the surface, protecting farmland and cities. "It happened again," her chief engineer said. "Signal interference the moment the Alliance ship entered orbit. All our communications got delayed by 3 minutes." Lisa nodded. This was the 5th time. She had filed formal complaints, but each time received the same answer: standard monitoring protocols. "Record everything," she told him, "and set up the backup system we discussed." The engineer smiled grimly. "Already did. They don't know about our old radio system. It's primitive, but it works." At Jupiter Research Station, Dr. Alan Peterson compared schematics. As head of technological adaptation, his job was to integrate Alliance tech with human systems. What he found disturbed him. "Diane, look at this," he called to his colleague, Dr. Diane Foster. She joined him at his workstation. "What am I seeing?" "The shield technology they gave us last year." He pulled up another image. "And this is what I saw on the Zephyrian ship when they rescued those miners." Diane's eyes widened. "It's not the same." "No. Ours is an older version, less efficient, less powerful." He showed her more files. "It's not just shields. It's everything they shared with us." "Have you told anyone?" Alan nodded. "I sent a report to Ambassador Hayes. He's presenting our concerns at the Alliance Summit tomorrow." The summit took place on the massive Alliance Central Station. Ambassador William Hayes, who had taken over from the retired John Morris, stood tall despite being surrounded by representatives who towered over him. "My colleagues," he began, "Earth has concerns about technological sharing that require addressing." The Zephyrian High Counselor tilted his silvery head. "What concerns could you possibly have? We have shared great knowledge with your young species." William displayed the evidence Dr. Peterson had compiled. "These technologies are outdated compared to what other members receive." The chamber grew quiet. The Valkyrian representative grunted something to the Zephyrian, who waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. "Ambassador Hayes," the Zephyrian said, "you must understand the complexity of knowledge transfer. Each species receives technology appropriate to their developmental stage. Humans are still adapting to interstellar community standards." "We've been members for 20 years, William responded. "A mere moment for evolving species," the Zephyrian replied with what seemed like a smile. "Your developing status requires guided integration. Be patient, young friends. Trust in our experience." The patronizing tone was not lost on William. As he left the chamber, Kate Bennett, now head of Human Intelligence Operations, fell in step beside him. "That went as expected," she murmured. William nodded. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." "The question is why," Kate said. "What are they afraid we'll do with equal technology?" "I don't know," William replied. "But I'm starting to think our peaceful approach might be interpreted as weakness." Back on Earth, Director Wright received their report. Silently, she added it to a growing file labeled Alliance Discrepancies. The evidence was building, but she still hoped for a diplomatic solution. She didn't know that within days, events at humanity's most distant colony would shatter that hope forever. Proxima Centauri was humanity's most distant colony. A beautiful world with blue oceans and red skies, it represented the frontier of human expansion. Colony Director Frank Williams loved watching the strange double sunset from his office window. Today, however, his attention was fixed on the scanner display. "Are you sure about this?" he asked his security chief. Susan Garcia nodded, her face tense. "The ship has been in orbit for 6 hours. It's not responding to any hails, and it's not broadcasting any Alliance identification codes." Frank studied the blurry image. The ship's design was unfamiliar. "Have you contacted Earth?" "I tried. There's unusual interference in our communication channels." Susan's hand rested on her sidearm, a habit from her military days. "I've activated our defense protocols as a precaution." Frank nodded. Proxima Colony had minimal defenses, a small energy shield, and a few defense drones. They had never needed more. The Alliance was supposed to protect them. "Sir," a young operator called from his station, "3 more ships just appeared on our scanners." The newcomers were definitely Alliance vessels. Their distinctive designs were immediately recognizable. Frank felt relief wash over him, until the communication screen activated. A Zephyrian commander appeared. "Proxima Colony, this is Alliance Security Vessel Dominant. We have received reports of aggressive actions against an Alliance observer craft. Power down all defensive systems immediately." Frank frowned. "This is Director Williams. We have an unidentified vessel in orbit that refuses communication. We raised shields as a precaution only." The Zephyrian's silver eyes narrowed. "The vessel is conducting standard monitoring. Your defensive posture is being interpreted as hostile. Comply immediately." Susan stepped forward. "Sir, something's not right. Standard procedure requires all monitoring ships to identify themselves." Frank nodded and turned back to the screen. "Commander, we request proper identification from the observer craft, as required by Alliance Protocol Section 27B. Once identified, we will gladly lower our shields." The Zephyrian's expression hardened. "You are not in a position to make demands. You have 30 seconds to comply." Frank looked at Susan, who shook her head slightly. "I respectfully decline until proper protocols are followed," he told the commander. The screen went dark. "Alert all sectors," Susan ordered. "Possible hostile." She never finished her sentence. The colony's lights flickered, then went out. Emergency systems kicked in, casting everything in red glow. "They're using some kind of energy pulse," a technician shouted. "It's disrupting all our systems." Frank rushed to the colony's control center. Reports flooded in from all sectors. The shield was down. Environmental systems were failing. And worst of all, life support was shutting down section by section. "Get everyone to the emergency shelters," he ordered. "They have independent air supplies." Susan was already organizing evacuation teams. "The education center systems are completely offline," she reported, her voice tight with fear. "There are 16 children in there." Frank grabbed an emergency breather mask. "I'll go myself. Keep trying to contact Earth." The corridors were filling with frightened colonists. Frank pushed against the flow, heading for the education center. By the time he reached it, he was already too late. The scenes inside would haunt him forever. 23 colonists died that day. 16 children and 7 adults, all suffocated when the Alliance's compliance measures shut down their life support. When it was over, when emergency systems were finally restored, Frank Williams stood in the colony's communication center with clenched fists. The Zephyrian commander appeared on screen again. "The regrettable loss of life was a result of your failure to comply with security directives," he stated without emotion. "Alliance protocols for managing potentially volatile civilizations were followed correctly." Frank said nothing. There were no words for what he felt. On Earth, Director Olivia Wright received the news with a face carved from stone. In 20 years of diplomacy, she had never authorized what she was about to do. "Send the footage," she ordered. "Every colony, every ship, every human in Alliance space needs to see what happened today." The aide hesitated. "Ma'am, that might violate our agreement on." "I don't care anymore," Olivia said quietly. "Send it. All of it." The footage spread across human space like fire through dry grass, and with it, something changed in the human spirit. Something fundamental. The long patience of humanity had reached its end. Admiral Margaret Wilson had always been the voice of moderation in military matters. For 15 years, she had advised restraint when younger officers suggested stronger defenses. "Diplomacy first," was her famous saying. But as she watched the footage from Proxima Centauri for the third time, something cold and hard formed in her chest. The emergency council chamber was silent when she finally spoke. "We've mistaken patience for weakness, diplomacy for submission. Our peaceful nature has been weaponized against us." Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "They killed our children." No one responded. What could they say? The footage had spread to every corner of human space in the past 24 hours. Riots had broken out on 3 colonies. Alliance representatives had been evacuated for their safety. In a separate room of the UEC headquarters, Ryan Murphy hunched over his workstation. As a deep space communications specialist, he had access to transmission codes most people didn't know existed. For years, he had worked within Alliance guidelines. Today, he was breaking every rule. "I've got something," he told Kate Bennett, who stood watch at the door. Her intelligence background made her the perfect partner for this unauthorized mission. "What is it?" she asked, glancing nervously down the hall. Ryan's fingers flew over the controls. "I've decoded a classification system they use when discussing member species. Look at our designation." On the screen, alien symbols translated to English. "Humans, status, controlled expansion candidates." "What does that mean?" Kate moved closer to read the smaller text. "Species deemed too unpredictable for full Alliance privileges. Technological access, limited. Expansion rights, monitored. Military development, restricted." Ryan's voice grew angrier with each word. "They never intended to make us equals. Ever." Kate's expression hardened. "Send this to Director Wright immediately." Across the Atlantic, in his modest home outside London, retired diplomat Henry Mitchell received an urgent call. The elderly man had helped craft the original Alliance membership agreement decades ago. Now, Director Wright needed him to review it again. "I don't understand," he said over the secure line. "I've read this document hundreds of times." "Read it again," Olivia insisted. "But this time, assume they're hiding something." Henry spent the day with the document, examining every phrase, every seemingly innocent clause. As the sun set, he found it, hidden in legal language so subtle he had missed it for 20 years. "It's here," he told Olivia, his voice shaking. "Section 11, paragraph 7. It establishes different categories of membership. Class A with full rights and Class B with developing privileges. But nowhere does it specify which we are." "And we assumed we were Class A," Olivia said. "Yes. But Appendix C defines Earth as a recent technological achiever, which Section 42 links to probationary status." Henry sounded defeated. "We've been second-class citizens from the beginning." In Washington, D.C., UEC President Daniel Cooper faced the most difficult decision of his career. The evidence was overwhelming. The Alliance had manipulated humanity for generations. The deaths at Proxima Centauri were just the final proof of their true attitude. His advisors were divided. Some urged immediate withdrawal from the Alliance. Others feared retaliation. Earth was still vulnerable, despite 2 decades of growth. "What are your orders, Mr. President?" Admiral Wilson asked during the closed session. Daniel stood and walked to the window. Below, citizens gathered in the streets. The mood wasn't just angry, it was determined. Something fundamental had changed in the human spirit. "Prepare a statement," he told his communications director. "I'll address all colonies in 1 hour." The broadcast reached every human settlement, ship, and station. People crowded around screens to hear their president's words. "Citizens of Earth and her colonies, Daniel began, his face solemn. Today we face a painful truth. Humanity has extended its hand in peace for generations. We have compromised, accommodated, and forgiven. But what we will not do is sacrifice our children on the altar of a peace that exists only in name. He paused, looking directly into the camera. From this day forward, humanity will chart its own course among the stars. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we accept subjugation. The Alliance has shown its true face, and we have finally opened our eyes. As he spoke, something awakened across human space, a collective realization that their greatest strength had been there all along, hidden beneath layers of compromise and pacification. The sleeping giant was finally stirring. The Alliance expected protests, angry messages, perhaps even threats. What they did not expect was calm. In the 5 years following the Proxima Centauri incident, humanity maintained all diplomatic channels. Trade continued. Cultural exchanges proceeded. Ambassador Hayes attended Alliance Council meetings with perfect politeness. This worried the Zephyrians more than any outburst would have. "They're planning something," the High Counselor told his inner circle. "Increase monitoring of all human settlements." But there was little to see. On the surface, humanity continued as before. Beneath that surface, everything had changed. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Mining Director Laura Phillips watched her operation transform. Where once there had been simple ore extraction, now hidden factories hummed with activity. The Alliance inspectors never looked too closely at mining operations. The work was dirty and uninteresting to their advanced sensibilities. "How long until the new units are ready?" she asked her chief engineer. He checked his tablet. 3 months for this batch. But we've got 5 other sites already at full production. Laura nodded, satisfied. The massive shield generators her teams were building would never be reported to the Alliance registry. When the time came, Earth would not be defenseless. On Luna Base, Commander Paul Martinez supervised what were officially called defensive readiness drills. The public reports sent to the Alliance described basic military exercises, nothing that would cause concern. The reality was far different. In underground facilities, human soldiers trained with weapon systems developed in secret. Engineers modified Alliance technology, improving it beyond what their mentors thought possible. "Run the simulation again," Paul ordered. "This time, assume they target our communication networks first." His officers nodded. They had been preparing response scenarios for every possible form of Alliance betrayal. The Alliance thought humans were predictable. They were about to learn otherwise. The UES Harmony, once humanity's flagship research vessel, quietly received visitors at a remote space dock. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, retrofitting systems that had been deliberately kept dormant. Captain Roy Duncan, now in his 60s but still sharp-eyed, inspected the new bridge control systems. "Will the Alliance scanners detect these changes?" he asked the chief engineer. "No, sir. We're using their own shielding technology against them. Modified, of course. They'll see exactly what they expect to see." On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Dr. Nicol Adams led a team developing technology that would change everything. The quantum communications network they built operated on principles the Alliance had never shared with humanity, principles that human scientists had discovered independently. "Test the relay to Proxima again," Nicol instructed her team. "Make sure the signal can't be detected by standard Alliance monitoring." A technician nodded. "Already confirmed, Doctor. The network is invisible to their systems." For the first time, human colonies could communicate without Alliance oversight. The puppet strings were being cut, one by one. Most significant of all these preparations was the quiet tour undertaken by UEC Special Envoy Greg Sanders. He visited every human settlement, from the smallest research outpost to the largest colonies. He delivered his message in person, never over monitored channels. On Mars Colony, he met with Governor Lisa Martinez in her garden, surrounded by red roses grown in Martian soil. "When will it happen?" she asked him. Greg studied the roses. when they push too far. And they will. They can't help themselves. They've never respected us as equals. And when they do push, we'll be ready. Her question held both hope and fear. Greg nodded. Every colony, every ship, every station. We're not preparing for war, Lisa. We're preparing for independence. The deception ends now. Throughout human space, a new determination took hold. Humanity had always been resourceful, adaptable, and innovative. Now those qualities were focused on a single goal: freedom from the condescension and control of the Alliance. The Zephyrians and their allies had made a critical mistake. They had treated humanity like children for too long, never realizing that children eventually grow up. And humanity had grown up in silence, preparing for the day when patience would finally run out. The Alliance grew increasingly uncomfortable with humanity's quieter stance. After 5 years of polite diplomacy without the eager cooperation they had come to expect, suspicion replaced complacency in the Alliance Council. Something has changed, the Zephyrian elder Cax Moore told the Council. They smile, they trade, they attend our meetings, but their eyes are different. The decision to send an evaluation delegation to Earth came with little debate. Led by Elder Cax Moore himself, the group arrived with smiles and ceremonial gifts, but their true purpose was clear to humanity's leaders. President Daniel Cooper, now in his second term, received them in the Grand Hall of the UEC headquarters. His smile was as practiced as theirs. Earth welcomes the honored delegation, he said, following protocol perfectly. Elder Cax Moore bowed slightly. We come in friendship as always. The Alliance wishes to strengthen our bonds through greater understanding. The pleasantries lasted exactly 3 days. Then came the demand. The Alliance requires full access to all human military installations and research facilities, Elder Cax Moore announced during a morning meeting. This is for security protocol verification, of course. President Cooper maintained his diplomatic smile. We would be happy to comply, Elder. In the spirit of mutual trust, we request similar access to Alliance facilities. The room grew silent. Elder Cax Moore's silver skin seemed to darken slightly, the equivalent of a human flush. Reciprocity implies equality, which is not the relationship we share, the Elder said, abandoning pretense. Your species requires guidance, not partnership. This has always been understood. President Cooper's expression did not change, but Admiral Wilson, standing nearby, clenched her fist behind her back. Finally, the truth was spoken aloud. I see, President Cooper said softly. And if we decline this inspection? The Elder's tone hardened. Compliance is not optional. Alliance regulations allow for these measures. The meeting ended without resolution. That night, as human leaders gathered to discuss their response, alerts came in from Earth orbit. 3 Alliance ships had entered the defensive perimeter without authorization. They're scanning our global defense systems, Admiral Wilson reported, studying the data stream. Every satellite, every installation. President Cooper's order was calm but firm. Tell them to withdraw immediately. The Alliance commander's response came minutes later. We are assessing compliance capabilities, as is our right under Section 17. Throughout the night, more Alliance ships arrived. By morning, the largest Alliance fleet ever assembled in Earth space hung in orbit like a sword over humanity's head. Elder Cax Moore arrived for the scheduled meeting carrying a thick document. Without ceremony, he placed it before President Cooper. The Alliance has prepared revised treaty terms, he announced. All human military forces will be placed under direct Alliance command for the security of all civilized species. President Cooper began reading the document, his face growing paler with each page. The provisions went far beyond military control. There were clauses about population management on colony worlds deemed strategically sensitive, restrictions on technological development, oversight committees for every aspect of human governance. It was not a treaty. It was a surrender document. As President Cooper read, Alliance Security Chief Relnax, a hulking reptilian being, spoke casually from across the table. Non-compliance would necessitate protective occupation of major human settlements, he said, examining his clawed hand. For their own security, of course. The threat hung in the air, as clear as the fleet in orbit. The Alliance had finally shown its full intention. Humanity would submit, or it would be forced to submit. President Cooper looked up from the document. Around the table, human leaders watched him, waiting. Kate Bennett slipped him a small note. All systems ready. The hour of decision had arrived. 5 years of secret preparation. 5 years of playing the dutiful, submissive species. 5 years of waiting for exactly this moment. President Cooper handed the document back to Elder Caxamore. "No," he said simply. The elder blinked in confusion. This was not the response he had expected. "Perhaps you misunderstand the situation," Vrelnax growled. "This is not a negotiation." President Cooper stood up slowly. "On that," he said, "we finally agree." The silence that followed President Cooper's refusal lasted only moments. Elder Caxamore's face twisted with anger and disbelief. "You dare reject the Alliance's generous offer?" he demanded. President Cooper remained standing, calm and resolute. "It was never an offer. It was a demand for surrender. And yes, we dare." He pressed a small button on his wrist communicator. Throughout human space, dormant systems activated simultaneously. On Earth, on Mars, on every colony and outpost. Shield technology developed in secret hummed to life. The energy barriers that surrounded human settlements were unlike anything the Alliance had provided. They were purely human innovations, more advanced than what the superior species had ever shared. Alliance members in the room received frantic communications. Their ships in orbit reported that human vessels were appearing on scanners where none had been detected before. Admiral Wilson's fleet, which had appeared scattered and minimal, revealed its true strength as stealth systems disengage. Far away, near the Alliance Central Hub, the UES Harmony transformed from research vessel to command center. Captain Roy Duncan sat in his chair, watching as the communication network developed on Titan, linked all human forces in an untraceable web of coordination. Back on Earth, Elder Caxamore's face had lost its silver sheen, turning almost gray. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Your technology is not this advanced." "No," President Cooper corrected. "The technology you gave us was not this advanced. What you're seeing is purely human innovation. The work we did while you thought we were being obedient." In orbit, Alliance ships attempted to target Earth's major cities. Their weapons systems failed to respond. Across the displays, error messages flashed in alien script. "You're wondering why your weapons won't fire," Kate Bennett said, stepping forward. "During all those years of maintenance assistance, our technicians placed backdoor access points in your systems. We've been studying your technology from the inside out." Alliance Security Chief Relnax lunged toward President Cooper, but stopped short as a barrier of energy appeared between them. Personal shield technology that no human was supposed to possess. "For generations, we chose peace when we could have chosen dominance," President Cooper addressed the stunned delegation. "That choice was never weakness. It was wisdom and restraint. You mistook our patience for submission, our diplomacy for fear." He gestured toward the window, where the shields now visible around Earth glowed with a soft blue light. "We don't want war. We never did, but neither will we accept subjugation." From a briefcase, he removed a single document and placed it on the table. "This is our response to your demands. A new treaty, one of genuine equality, transparency, and mutual respect." The document was titled simply, "Terms of True Alliance." Elder Caxamore stuttered in outrage. "You cannot dictate terms to us. The Alliance has existed for millennia before your species even left its planet." The communication screens in the room activated, showing Admiral Wilson aboard her flagship. Her voice came through clearly. "The terms are non-negotiable. Humanity stayed peaceful not because we had to, but because we chose to. That choice remains yours to make. Choose wisely." On the screen behind her, the true extent of humanity's fleet became visible. Ships of designs the Alliance had never seen before, technologies that had been developed in secret, weapons that remained powered down but ready. Throughout human space, citizens watched and waited. In the colony on Proxima Centauri, Frank Williams stood with Susan Garcia in the rebuilt education center, watching the transmission with the families who had lost children 5 years ago. "Is this revenge?" a mother asked quietly. Frank shook his head. "No, this is liberation." The galaxy held its breath as Elder Caxamore stared at the document before him. Thousands of years of Alliance dominance hung in the balance. The arrogance of ages faced the determination of a species that had finally reached its limit. Humanity had snapped, not into brutality, but into its full potential. The peaceful species had not become warlike. Instead, they had become something the Alliance feared even more. They had become equals. Elder Caxamore slowly reached for the document.